Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching this latest one-to-one. My name is Martin Redmayne, and I'm joined today by Bram Jongepier, one of the brains behind the Feadship organization, and what I call one of the geniuses of our industry. Bram, good morning. How are you?
Thanks for that introduction. I'm
Well, I think the reason I say that is because I think one of the things that's interesting is that we're heading into a period of time now, Bram, where we have to really rethink and refocus on technology and engineering and design. And I think that's one of your, let's say, sort of your core objectives, if you like, to sort of improve and optimize the fleet.
Yep.
Certainly from
Yes.
Feadship's point of view.
Yep.
So let me ask you a very simple opening question. What keeps you up at night from our industry's point of view?
All kinds of stuff. We have a lot of different projects with all kinds of different parts of a focus of an owner, and sometimes it is a specific owner's request that I am struggling with. So how can I get all that different aspects working together in a 3D environment, or how can I make the boat fast and light, or etc. etc. So it can be anything. And if you talk about keeping me up at night, the Yeti, as you might know, was actually a 3 a.m. issue.
What, today?
No, in November 2018.
Oh, I see.
You get all these stimuli from work, from people around you, and it keeps bubbling until something pops out. And usually, the popping moment is at night. Yeah.
Good. No, I think it's interesting because obviously there's so many wonderful things happening at Feadship at the moment in terms of blazing sort of technology trails, challenging the norms, and also sort of, let's say, pushing boundaries. This word, pushing boundaries. Give me a little snapshot of what is actually currently on the drawing board and what's happening today. Lots, I know.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. We're very, very focused, of course, on sustainability. But I think to give a bit of a more bird's eye perspective, the reason for yachts to be built is not sustainability.
Yeah,
it's to have fun and to have comfort, and the essential attributes then are safety and probably sustainability. Yeah? And I think sustainability, when it is not driven by regulation, which it is currently not, but probably will be.
Yes.
So currently it's not driven by regulation. I think it's driven by shame. So people don't want to be ashamed of the boat that they have, and all people are different, and some people are not bothered at all, and some people are bothered to the level that they say, I really, really have to do everything I can, you can, to make this boat as sustainable, to have the least impact possible. So we have boats in build that go very, very far in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, we can't tell anything about our builds, but we are working within our R&D scope, of course, on methanol applications, on fuel cells, on hydrogen, and also on the bit easier alternatives in way of a client, as for instance, sustainable diesel. Sustainable diesel fuel is a fuel made from synthetic fuel made from biomass.
Yes.
In some way, and you can always get back to those 4 points of fun and comfort and safety and sustainability. And for instance, that fuel is comfort and sustainability. But if you go for a methanol fuel cell, it's that same focus. So a fuel cell is very silent; it gives you comfort.
Yeah.
And that fuel is the sustainable part of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to just highlight is that in November this year, we'll be in the Amsterdam Met Trade Live with the Super Yacht Forum Live. We've just announced our, let's say, headline theme and objectives, and I'm trying to bring this onto the screen because I want to make sure this becomes part of our conversation. The question we're asking the market as part of the theme is, what should the super yacht industry look like in 2030? And I emphasize the word should because I think we have that responsibility. You say that some owners are driving it, some owners don't really care, but I think it's more of an internal conversation now, that the industry wide should take responsibility for the future. So it's really to try and understand from your perspective and from Feadship's perspective, what are you saying internally are those 2030 priorities that you're focused on?
Yeah, I think it's those 4 pillars, the fun and comfort. That's the demand side.
Yes.
And we have to cover the safety and sustainability side. That is our responsibility of the industry. So when fun and comfort are pull, we have to do the push on safety and sustainability. So that means that, for instance, if we go for a methanol design, then we have to be sure that the ship itself is safe. And so that's our part of the business. And in a totally different way, you can also look at stuff like glass in designs. So there's a definite trend over the last decades to get more and more glass. Because more glass is fun, because you have more feeling of interaction with the outside world, but it gives you safety against the elements, and it is our business to make sure that it is securely engineered.
Yes.
So we know that we can do load-bearing glass, for instance. And you can leave away all the structure and have the glass walls actually carry the next deck. It's possible.
Yeah. That was on Venus, yes? That was Venus as a primary.
No. It's never been built. No, it's if you want a real-world example, you have to go to land-based, the Steve Jobs Theater in Los Angeles. That is load-bearing glass. And Venus looked like it, but it was actually a very heavy cantilevered construction.
Okay, understood.
We were not ready at that stage. Now we are.
Okay, interesting. So that's a generational shift in glass now that's coming.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But the funny thing with yachts is that tiny details can govern the total structure of the yacht. So when you have a load-bearing glass wall, the trouble is, how do you make blackout windows? Yeah? So that's one of those things that might keep me up at night.
I think that's what's so exciting. I think this is something I was talking about the other day with someone. It's like, so there is an opportunity to really inspire our clients with what I call these really smart solutions and innovations. And I feel that that's one of the skills that we have to have as an industry. Going back to the topic of aviation, automotive, and commercial shipping, they're driven by regulation or by an industry-wide motive. Our industry, in terms of sustainability and energy efficiency and all the various, we'll call sustainable topics that we all talk about, they are our responsibility. However, I feel one of the things we have to do as a market is inspire the wider client base that this is a cool thing to do. This is like really sort of driving change, like F1 does in automotive. And I feel we have that responsibility now to challenge ourselves, to push ourselves to the next level. And I think that 8-year cycle to 2030 shouldn't be about just the topic of sustainability of the environment. It should be about absolute innovation that is exciting. Do you agree?
I think that's sustainability in itself is never a goal, because if you want to really be sustainable, don't build a yacht.
Exactly.
So that is probably not our business model. So the trick is is to wrap that sustainable technology or solution into additional comfort or additional fun. So on a very small scale, I'm personally driven to do as well as I can in sustainable living sustainably. So I exchanged my my big Volvo for a Audi hybrid, and actually it is fun.
Yes,
I love it because it is a sport to optimize your electric performance in that car. So it is not just sustainability. There should be fun involved.
yes, yeah, 100%. I think that's one of our skills now for the next, let's say, decade or so, is that to make our industry appear even more fun, not just about being on the water, out at sea, anchored somewhere, worrying about the consumption, but more about what investment can be made by customers into driving this sort of innovation and change. That to me is one of our industry goals now, because it used to be a very, very high profile topic where an industry would be, or a project would be developed or designed by one individual. It was really driven by innovation or cool technology. So I think our industry has to go through that shift now to make it even more exciting, especially for this almost perception of our industry. We're not always building the same thing. We're building, because a lot of yachts do look the same, as we all know. But it's like making sure things look absolutely cool and exciting to inspire the 100,000 people out there who really could buy a boat if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason for us to have started the concept designs that we presented at Monaco. So starting with the Extreme, those 10 or 12 boats after that. That is to trigger people to think, okay, if they think something crazy like that is actually possible, maybe my idea isn't crazy at all. So it triggers people to think freely and to be inspired and to work further on the ideas that we throw into the world.
Yeah, yeah. Little sort of side question I wanted to throw at you is, I remember Henk de Vries saying one day, Feadship would love to build sailboats. Where is that in the sort of the mix at the moment?
Still do.
Okay.
No, a sailboat is a different kind of yacht. It's a different kind of owner, probably. It's a different kind of experience. But it can be a great yacht. Why not?
Yeah. But I'm more interested in terms of, everyone says that, why isn't the sailing industry emerging more dynamically when sustainability is our topic? Because it's the wind energy is obviously the most sustainable source we could even look at. So do you have any theories on why?
Yeah, don't overestimate the effect of sales, I'd say, on sustainability. We've done a lot of studies to that actually in the Yeti Joint Industry Project. We have a couple of serious sailing players in there. And what you see is that sales, of course, only work when the boat is on the move, which is about 10% of the year.
Yeah.
And of that 10%, it tends to differ how much use they can actually get out of their sails, because sometimes there is no wind, sometimes the wind is from the wrong direction. So the total effect of putting a rig on a boat it's definitely noticeable, but it's not the total solution.
Yeah, but a combination maybe.
It can be part of the equation, and I think that it's a good thing to make use of free energy. And if you like sailing, sure, do it. But if you don't, find another way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that with the technology that we have now on our boats and with the emerging alternative fuels, we will be able to sail close to carbon neutral. So this year we'll be trialing the synthetic fuel, so HVO will be trialed on one of our boats, and you can buy that and you can put it in your boat now today.
Yeah.
So if you want, you can sail sustainably, or at least CO2 neutral.
Yeah. So on that topic, in terms of the infrastructure to support that, is that the key issue now?
It's maybe not key, but it is certainly a very, very important driver. So what we have been looking into for our program to stimulate the use of HVO is also, we talk to suppliers and we look at the global production levels, and we look at pricing of the different fuels. And that's not an easy bit because, for instance, there's a very large refinery in France which actually makes sustainable fuel in Marseille. So you'd say, well, put a pipeline to Monaco, you're done.
Yes.
But for some reason, a French regulation says they cannot sell pure HVO to persons. They can to businesses, but not to persons. So I don't know why, but the fiscal world has to acknowledge this and stimulate the use of sustainable solutions.
Yeah. No,
are you hearing that cement truck outside?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. In terms of that infrastructure topic, are there other things that you think about or concern about in terms of the next generation of the fleet? One of the things I always think about is who's going to drive and operate the fleet.
Who's going to drive, you say?
To drive and operate the crew element of these next generation projects. That's something I would think about is, are they, let's say, ready or developed enough for all these new technologies and these future projects?
I think you're talking, of course, about the complexity of our yachts, which tends to increase.
Yes.
So these are extremely complex boats, and they do need a skilled crew to run. But I think there's two sides to that coin, because if you look at the developments in autonomous operation, that will help the crew to operate the boat. So, for instance, we have now systems on our boats that can advise the crew how to position the boat to better receive a helicopter, or to do tender operations. So we know the environment the boat is in, we know the behavior of the boat, and we can actually predict which part of the bay is the best one to park your boat. So those are advisory systems to help the crew operate the boat in the best way. And the second thing about the autonomous systems is that it is getting easier to get shore support. So you can get really secure portals on the boat to get virtual help on board. And that is something that we need to develop further, because, of course, as a yard, as a subcontractor, you know better the intricate workings of a certain system than the crew who is operating it.
Yes.
So if you just call in and say, okay, you have to adjust this setting and push that button, they will be able to deal with it. Yeah.
Okay, let's put a crystal ball on the table. And let's look at 2030. Bram, in your, let's say, vision of the future, what do you think yachts will be sort of doing or looking like, or design elements that you would love to see happen?
I think there's this trend with chase boats, shadow boats, stuff like that.
Yes.
And it is all about the fact that there is such a variety of demand of functionality that a single boat is never enough. So that's why big boats have small boats as tenders, but those small tenders sometimes are too small and the big boat too big, and then you get a shadow boat or a chase boat. So that whole fleet idea or multi-purpose idea, that is something that I would love to see develop, and it's actually one of our concepts. The concept choice was made with that idea, because it has a big mother vessel which is actually propelled by two 25-meter tenders, which are small yachts in their own.
Yes.
A little tender, and so it's like one of those Russian dolls actually. So you have all these different uses, but they are designed as one.
Yeah.
You see the aesthetical design now making tenders look like the yacht, or have the same styling elements. But I think that's the functional idea of having a whole fleet at your disposal, and having the right size of boat for each occasion. That's an interesting one, certainly.
Yeah, I think with that question, I think when you start looking at some of the size of the boats in the market today, let's say above 90 meters, the practicality suddenly becomes the question of, would 2 or 3 boats for the same investment be the more optimal operational profile?
Maybe, but I think size does matter. A big boat is just more comfortable than a small boat. So if you're looking for the least amount of motions on board, you go for a bigger boat. But if you look to experience those lovely tiny harbors in an island, yeah, that big boat isn't useful. So you have to have and the big boat and the small boat, and then you go water skiing and you have to have this small fast boat, and etc. So the combination of all those boats is kind of a fleet.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that of course that amounts for your fun and your safety and your comfort. But the interesting thing is that when we designed Choice, we started out, let's do a concept not on sustainability this year. We've done that for the past couple of years. Let's just go for fun now. So what shall we do?
Yeah.
We designed Choice. And at the end, we said, let's see how that functions. So we simulated a cruise along a couple of islands, which we actually got from our AIS analysis of one of our yachts. So it's a realistic cruising itinerary.
Yeah.
And we simulated that with the use of a big and quite slow motor vessel and 2 fast, smaller tenders. And what we actually saw in the end, that we spent less energy doing more fun things. Sort of a serendipity, but that the operation of that fleet was actually more sustainable than a single large yacht, because the big boat was sailing very slowly to the next destination, and the people zipped over there in their fast little big tender.
Yeah.
And spent an extra hour on the beach.
Yeah, interesting. I think that's an interesting subject. Is when you start analysing how we use boats and how people cruise and the distances they cover, and also the way in which they live on board. Brains like yours and others in the industry start to say, actually, we should re-engineer a little bit more for the purpose of the vessel, because as you say, 2 small boats, as well proven, can be much more sustainable just because of the energy consumption.
Yes.
And as you say, cruising at a much more optimal low speed on a mothership it just changes the sort of mentality of operation. I think there's lots of things we can do as an industry that will actually reduce that consumption. And consumption energy is like one of those things I look at now in terms of waste. How much fuel is wasted because we have an inefficient operational profile.
Correct. Yeah. The operational profile, that's really a focal topic on many research issues. We started in 2015, I think, with our first batch of AIS data analysis, so big data analysis of behavior of our fleet. And we've used that to better understand how the boats are used. And you see that maximum speed is totally unimportant.
Yes.
But cruising speed is really, really important. And you see that range, at the same thing, it's range in itself isn't so important. No. You should much more look at the endurance of a yacht in a certain operational modus. So yes. If you're cruising, you're spending time at anchor, time in harbor, time on the move, etc. So how many weeks can I go cruising before I have to bunker again? That is much more interesting than, okay, I switch it on now and I can do 5,000 miles.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Exactly.
The shift in focus is really getting accepted in the industry, and I think that will change the way people design. It might even change the way contracts are written, because what is the value of a penalty on top speed? So naval architects start to optimize for top speed, and the penalty that the customer pays is a high fuel consumption at cruising speed. So
yeah, makes no sense.
It's plain stupid.
Yeah.
And we've worked further on that whole idea of the operational analysis in the way that we now know when the boat moves from harbor to harbor. We call that a trip, or harbor to anchor, at least from standstill to standstill. We call that a trip. We can do that big data analysis.
Yeah.
So we know the distribution of trip length and trip speed.
Yeah.
And then you can really get new ideas on how to power a boat and how to use different kinds of energy. That's what we presented earlier this year in our webinar.
Yeah.
If you have a battery capacity on board of which would be able to power the boat for 2.5% of the range, you could actually do 30% of your trips fully electric.
Yeah.
So, no, I said it wrong. 30% of your miles fully electric, 70% of your trips. And so that would be almost all of your owner-operated trips would be fully electric.
Yeah.
And then you can make use of shore power.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there again, you get into the discussion of the availability of shore power. That's a big issue. But this year we had a good study on that with a student from TU Delft, who developed a complete scenario for a plug-in hybrid. And what he found was that currently the availability of shore power around the Mediterranean is already good enough to power a small plug-in hybrid according to the principles that I just described. So 70% of your trips electric and 30% of your miles electric. If you go to a bigger boat, it gets a bit harder. So you'll have to increase the power in the harbors to make that a sensible solution. And a really big boat, then you get a big difference between the available power on shore and the demand of the boat. So charging times get excessive. That really doesn't work. So there is also a matter of scale in there.
Yeah.
If you move that whole operation to the Caribbean, you get a completely different picture because the shore power infrastructure in the Caribbean is totally different.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the way boats are operated, where boats are operated, should be an input into the design that you're making.
You suggest it hasn't been in the past?
Not really. I think that in the past we always said operation worldwide. Why not?
Yeah.
And you can, but nowadays you're looking for operation worldwide and efficiently. Okay, so maybe then we should be looking a bit further in how you actually operate. And it's the same with for instance, the ice class regulations. People want to discover. People want to be on the what you call it, untrodden paths. So in the Arctic and Antarctic environment, there is a lot of regulation. Where you really first have to decide where you want to sail and when.
Yeah.
Can you design and fit out your boat accordingly?
Yeah.
So the operation defines the boat.
Yes, 100%, 100%. If we take that crystal ball again, I want to just look back about 10 years. And if you sort of look at Feadship as a company in the last 10 years, how much more optimal are the boats you're building today versus 10 years ago in terms of energy, construction, engineering? Where are we at the moment?
When we look at environmental impact, I think we've saved close to 30%, something like that. And that is combining all the developments that we have done in additional efficiency, with, for instance, Tier 3, which is also an important aspect that was driven by regulation. And what you see is that regulation bit that first people tend to push back.
Yeah.
And say, oh, it goes in 2016. Let's say the keel in 15. I think we're slowly going into the modus that we actually want to drive regulation.
Yes. Yeah.
But in total, I think, yeah, about 30% sounds about right. It is quite hard to calculate because it's so dependent on operation. And for instance, what we know with the monitoring of our boats is that hotel power tends to be quite a bit lower than our normal load balances. So we have to learn much more about the effects of hotel power.
Yes.
Propulsive power is easy. It's easy to calculate and to do model testing and to do shaft measurements during trials.
Yeah.
So that is basically, it's a single system. It's easy to see, but the whole boat is a system of systems. And if you look at the way they work together in that constantly changing environment and constantly changing use of the boat, it is incredibly difficult to predict the amount of energy that is actually used by hotel power. So we have our estimation principles, but we are now actually monitoring our boats. So we get feedback from our fleet on what is the actual use of that hotel power. Yeah. We didn't even have that 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
So that makes it quite hard to make that comparison.
Yeah. So if you look at 8 years from now to 2030, as a company like Feadship, what is your target for what I call consumption reduction, energy consumption? Because I think we all look at this hotel load topic and how much energy is used that isn't necessary because it's doing something that's almost superfluous or just to keep a room cool. It doesn't need to be cool. This whole process of unnecessary generation.
Yeah, I think if I look at 2030, I want to be very, very close to zero impact. And there are two aspects that we have to cover. One is the efficiency aspect that you're talking about. Boats should use less energy to perform the same task.
Yes.
But that has a limit. And I think the technological limits in that mean that you may save another 30–40%. But it's not realistic to think that you can save more.
Yeah.
And the second bit is the alternative fuel. And if I'm looking at our current boats, you can actually decrease your total impact by probably 60–70% by just bunkering HVO, if that HVO is indeed made from sustainable sources.
Yes.
So the target for 2030 should be, well, compared to last year, 1%. We cannot get to zero. Zero is impossible, but we can get very, very close.
Yeah.
And we do that with the efficiency gains and with an alternative fuel.
Yeah.
We have to do both.
Yeah.
Because those alternative fuels, they are only sustainable if they are built or made with renewable energy.
Yes.
And as long as we do not have an excess of renewable energy, those renewable fuels will be scarce. So we have to do the fuels, and they have to be made out of the renewable source because there is no excess of renewable energy.
Yes.
If we would be in a world where there is excess energy, then, well, feel free to spend as much energy as you wish because there's an excess. That is very, very far away from us if we'll ever achieve that.
Yes.
So I think for a luxury expenditure of energy, you should be very, very careful with how much you expend that renewable energy. And in the end, it will be driven partially by the fiscal world, because in the end, we will find a way that the polluter will pay.
Yes.
It's inevitable.
Yes.
And that will drive innovation, and that will drive the development and the infrastructure of renewable energy. And I think that is what we will see in 2030, is that we will have yachts that are careful with the energy that they get, and the energy that they get will be of the most renewable kind, and it will be expensive energy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's the widest shoulders should carry the heaviest loads. And there are already people in poorer communities that are struggling to pay for their energy, and I think it's our responsibility as the wealthy part of the world not to burden them with higher prices and or pollution. And that is, maybe you saw it, but last weekend I read that Italy is asking the EU for an exemption on emission regulations for Ferrari and Lamborghini.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. Be the first to be totally sustainable.
Yeah, yeah.
And luckily, I think the yachting community is not trying to get out from those regulations and actually trying to drive the sustainable developments, because we can pay for it.
Exactly. I think that's a very valid
Everybody here-
comment. I think it's a very valid comment, Bram. I think that topic of the Ferrari Lamborghini thing was quite laughable when you really analyze the approach they took.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to the super yacht sector, because of the investment in the asset, etc., to drive and push and almost develop the best we can be.
Yep.
Pay for it.
Yeah, it is the energy that we expend during the operation is very easily prevented by not doing that operation. It is a totally non-essential industry that we have. So, and similarly to a Ferrari, nobody needs a Ferrari. Similar to a yacht, nobody needs a yacht. So. I think that non-essential industries should be the forerunners of having a total focus on sustainable operation, but always keep in mind to have fun, because that is a big part of our being, of our existence, is that we have to have fun on the yachts. That is what they're there for.
Yeah,
that's what the Ferrari is for also.
Bram, it's always fun talking to you, always interesting. And are you optimistic about the future?
I'm always optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, thanks a million for your time. It's a wonderful chat and always very fascinating. And I hope to see you soon.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Thanks, Bram.
Okay, thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.